Hello everybody, Justin from Playing Board Games here, and today I have another list video for all of you. These are 5 Drowned City cards that have been impressing me. I've been diving through the Drowned City box, playing through all the cards, watching other people play the cards, and I'm excited to just have a whole card pool to explore, and I feel like I haven't explored all of it yet, but these are 5 cards that have been sticking out to me as the cards that I've kind of just fallen the most in love with, or have the most times where I was going like, wow, this is actually a lot better than I thought it was, or this thing is like just a workhorse, and it's just constantly getting the job done. I think we should just dive in, talk about the first card on this list, which is Nose to the Grindstone. This is a 2-cost, 3-experience specialist asset. It's a talent, criminal, drifter, entrepreneur deck only. As a lightning bolt, during a skill test on a tool asset, exhaust Nose to the Grindstone. You get +2 skill value for this skill test. If this skill test fails, either replenish 1 supply on that asset or gain 1 resource. This was a card that, when it was first spoiled, was this even spoiled in the announcement article? It might have been. But when this card was spoiled, I was just kind of like, it was tepid. My response was just like, yeah, that seems fine. It seems hyper-focused. It doesn't really do anything except give you +2 skill value. But it turns out that a free unexpected courage a turn is actually pretty sweet. And then these aren't limit 1 per. So you could actually play like 2 of these and then get +4 for a test, or +2 over 2 tests. And the fail protection actually turned out to be really good for stuff like lock picks, but also just for tools in general that had uses. It turned out to be like really nice. You also add in the fact that maybe there's a fact that the gaining 1 resource, you're actually like choosing to fail. The card turned out to be a lot more relevant in what it was actually doing than I was expecting it to. I think we can all agree, or for the most part can agree, that the specialist cards as a whole had some neat ideas, but weren't really pushed or explored in a way that felt super engaging. I think as a whole the specialist cards were a neat experiment, but I think unfortunately we're just played a little bit too safe. And it kind of left to this point where like, they're cool cards, but they kind of sometimes just weren't, they just like, there was nothing really there that like made you really like sing. And Nose of the Grindstone is, 1, can be played by almost anybody. This is a huge pool of investigators that can play this card. But 2 is just like an example of, I think, one of the specialist cards that really works, because it's just, it's very open. And while a lot of different investigators can play tool assets, the 3 different traits approach this tool potentially in different ways. Like I said, you could do the looking to fail and boosting up survivor things. You can go really high with succeed by on lock picks. You can just take an investigator who has lower stats and you can use this for security for those tests, or getting like skill value for those tests. And that actually turned out to be really, really neat. I played this in a Wilson Richards deck and it popped off. Bryn played it in George Barnaby in our blind run of Drowned City, and it also turned out to be really good. There are a lot of tools that you want to be taking tests on. So this, I think, just turned out to be a lot more ubiquitous and a lot more value than I had in my initial play of this card. I think it's probably my 2nd favorite card that I've been experimenting with from Drowned City in terms of its reliability, which is like what I love when I'm playing Arkham. Yeah, turns out this card, I was no longer tepid on it after playing it with a few times. I was actually pretty damn impressed by it. So, Nose of the Grindstone. First one here. Next one we got here is the Dial of Ancients, the Signs of Aberration version specifically. This is a 3-cost, 4-experience Seeker accessory that's item, relic, and cursed. It's researched, so you need to translate the original Dial of Ancients, or research it rather. Limit 1 per deck and uses 4 charges. As an action, you can fight or evade. When you reveal a chaos token during this fight or evasion attempt, you may spend 1 charge to cancel that token, return it to the bag, and reveal a new one. You may do this any number of times. If this test succeeds, deal 1 damage to the targeted enemy. So I played this card in a Lucius run on the Patreon, where I did Zoe and Lucius through Feast of Hemlock Vale, which was a very fun run, by the way. I had a good time with it. Lucius and Zoe both became very flex-focused, which was enjoyable to have that experience where they were both able to get their main job done, but could do the other half as needed in the moment. And this was brought in my Lucius deck. And I never actually really used the top half of that fight evade action. The revealing additional chaos tokens was neat, but what I really enjoyed about this card was I think that this was probably the first design from these like researched cards where there was a damage version that didn't feel like it outpaced what the Guardians were doing. And while I'm okay with that happening occasionally, especially like combat focused stuff, I played back in the day when Strange Solution Acidic Ichor was just like a disgusting card, and now it's just like fine. But it was just such an efficient way for for Seekers to kill things compared to Guardians. And they've kind of not really like hit the same level on those in a lot of these things. And this kind of continued into other things like Ancient Stone, the one that deals damage and you draw cards, turns out also kind of just can outpace things. Everyone knows about the Ravenous Myconid just swallowing up enemies, right? Like that's a very good pace for what Seekers to do in a way that doesn't really particularly feel Seeker. What I really like about this Signs of Aberration Dial of Ancients is that it doesn't actually replace the stat that you're fighting or evading in. But if you find a Seeker or an Investigator that can play this card, that is able to take advantage of the High Fist, or more specifically in Seeker, the High Foot, in order to evade enemies, that's a really big boon that Dial of Ancients is able to give the Investigator. The accessory slot for Seeker, especially with this cycle on Feast of Hemlock Vale, is crazy contested. So you kind of have to make like a few sacrifices, depending on the build that you want to go for. But with all that said, this is actually probably the star card, or at least the number 2 card from my Lucius deck that I was like itching to draw. I was super excited whenever I play this, and then I was able to evade enemies, get clues, and advance the game and like deal damage to those enemies at the same time, so make some sort of forward progress in addition to everything else. And then I also had Pickpocketing, level 2, which was the number 1 card in the deck, by the way. And that, coupled with all this, just like was just value city. Like I just got so much freaking value out of all of those things. Just that one action from Dial of Ancients: pinged an enemy, evaded the enemy, discovered a clue, drew me cards, and gained me resources. And I know that this was just like one piece of the puzzle of what made that moment so good. But Dial of Ancients is just a reliable card and a good way for an evade-focused Seeker to protect themselves from enemies, but also still advance the game state. Maybe then they finish it off with something else, or the Guardian comes in and pokes at it as well. They have to use less resources. Really good for odd health enemies for that reason, right? I was a big fan of this card, and I'm excited to try it out in other Investigators. I think I want to visit it in like Ursula, obviously. Monterey Jack is another one that I want to try this out in, all in the Legacy format. I think that could be really fun to explore and see what comes of it. All right, third card that impressed me is True Awakening. This is a 0-cost, 2-experience specialist event. It's an Insight and Spirit, Blessed, Chosen, Drifter deck only. Choose and resolve 2 of the following in any order. Draw 2 cards, discover 1 clue your location, heal 1 damage, heal 1 horror. I think this was also the other specialist card that was in the preview article. I think it was Nose of the Grindstone and True Awakening. And then there was also the guy who just got tabooed, whose name is not burnt into my brain because Arnold McVeigh or something like that. I think is Archibald McVeigh. That sounds right. And this was a card that I was actually pretty excited about on the get-go. It was one of those things where I was like, yeah, this card seems good. But I didn't realize just how nice it would feel to play this card. I'm sorry, I don't remember your username, but there was someone who I knew I recognized their name from commenting on these videos, commenting on in our Discord, and also on Reddit. And they were always such a big fan of this card. And I was happy for them because I was like, yeah, the card does seem like pretty damn good. I think it's going to like do good things. But I really underestimated just how nice it would feel to play this card in investigators that don't have a lot of draw. In my mind, I'm always choosing the draw 2 cards on this. And I know you're actually really only drawing 1 card because you're spending 1 card to draw 2 cards. So you're really only going up 1. But you also get to discover a clue, which is my most common second choice for this. But I've also actually healed a damage and healed a horror in a pinch. And it turned out, when needed, it actually felt pretty good. It actually was like a really relevant choice to take at the time. But even when you just cancel the bottom 2 and you're just, as an action, discovering a clue and drawing 2 cards, that's really nice. That's a really nice effect to just have in your pocket. It allows you to change the pace of the game for how you get clues. It allows you to get card advantage if your deck or investigator is lacking card advantage. An example of this is Wilson Richards. I played a Wilson Richards deck. This was actually the first deck the deck that I brought for the first card too for the Grindstone. And I know I have like less cards than George Barnaby, but I cycled through my deck at the same time as a George Barnaby player, which is pretty impressive because Wilson Richards has really bad draw. Something I hear often about Wilson Richards is that, you know, like Ad Hoc is a great card, but it's unreliable to find. And effects like this make it better for Wilson Richards to actually like do the thing, get Ad Hoc, his signature, and put it into play, right? I also played this in a Marion Tavares deck through the blind run of Drowned City. Marion's good with events. It's no surprise here that this card is very good with Marion. Yeah, it was very nice there. I've seen other people play it. I'm always happy when someone resolves it because they're getting such a good impact for a card. I don't think this is a particularly exciting card for people who like weird, crazy cards, but for like pure, just like, not even like power, because I think the card is powerful, but I still think the card is incredibly fair. But like just like efficient, that's the word I'm looking for. Just for like an efficient effect, True Awakening is hard to beat. Just a very efficient specialist card. Let's go to card number 4 here, which is Good Weather. This is a 1-cost, 2-experience survivor event. It's a Blessed and Fortune. Myriad, fast. Play after the investigation phase begins, group limit 1 in play. Put Good Weather into play next to the agenda deck and choose a skill. While this card is in play, each investigator gets +2 to the chosen skill. Forced. When the investigation phase begins, discard Good Weather. So, you get it for a whole investigation phase. You get to say one of the skills, and then everyone gets +2 to each of those skills. Remember what I said earlier about Nose to the Grindstone and how just unexpected courages, or rather +2 to skill tests, turns out to be really good? Yeah, that kind of like copy and paste that from that earlier part of the video to talking about Good Weather now, because this card blew my socks off. So Bryn played this as George Barnaby in our Drowned City blind run. And every time he played one of these cards, the impact that it brought to the table was palpable. Because you can choose what stat is best for the team, it's always going to be relevant. And it's also because it's after the Mythos phase, you know all of the threats that are on the board and you're able to assess for the perfect stat to get the job done. If there were enemies, Bryn would choose Fist, and we would just all work together, fight with these enemies, and like get the job done, close that out. If there were no enemies and it was clues, Bryn would choose Book, and we would all just work together, get clues, and get the job done. I knew this card was going to be good. I liked it when it was first spoiled, and I was actually honestly kind of like, not in shock, but I was like, I feel like people are missing something when the analysis on this card upon release was pretty mild. Again, I think that just that +2 is overlooked for what it can actually just bring to the table. And I also think, in all fairness to the mild response, this card really does change in value if you play 2 players versus 3 or 4 players. In 3 players, I'm going to just put this in a lot of my survivor decks, especially if I have good draw or cycling, because it's just like impactful when it hits the table. Like I said, this was just very impressive. This one was less surprising than some of the other ones on this list, because I just knew I was going to like this card and I was going to love playing with this card. And I've only seen it played in that one campaign, but it's probably the card that I remember the most apart from Stand Together 3. But that's a whole different beast. I remember that card for different reasons. But this was the one that I think just had like the most noticeable impact on the table, because it was just always relevant. I remember there was even a time when we needed to do like some brain tests or foot tests to advance the objective, and Bryn chose that for good weather. And turns out, once again, when everyone has like a guts or a manual dexterity committed to those tests for every test they take, you can get a lot done. All right, we have one last card to talk about here, and that is the Antitherra. 3 cost, 5 experience, seeker asset that takes up the accessory slot. This is an item, relic, and science. As a reaction, after you succeeded a skill test, exhaust the Antitherra. If you succeeded by exactly 1 or 3, discover 1 clue your location. Exactly 2 or 4, draw a card and gain a resource, or as I call it, take an upkeep phase. Exactly 5, you may take an additional action during your next turn. If you succeed by 6 or more, you're screwed, but that's okay. We're not going to matter about that. I was pretty hyped on this card when it was spoiled. I'm a big fan of the Precision archetype. You guys have probably seen a lot of videos where I rant and rave about Chemistry Set, and I'm still playing Chemistry Set today. Truthfully, the only reason I'm actually excited about the current format is it means one day I'll have to stop playing with Chemistry Set, lest I play with Chemistry Set for the rest of my life. It was really cool to see them expand on the Precision archetype into Antitherra, and by extension Lucius Galloway, into the Drowned City expansion. I thought that this was really neat, and I was super excited to play with this card, and it seemed like a very good top end to the archetype. I was then recording a podcast with Daniel on the channel where he mentioned he was playing with Antitherra, and he was impressed by how good it was, because it's unlike Chemistry Set. It's not linked to just investigating. You're probably going to get a lot of this through investigating, but if, say for example, you pass a test in the Mythos phase by exactly 1 or 3, you can get a clue from your location, right? Or by 2 and 4, you can draw a card and gain a resource. And he was super impressed by it because it was just like, it seemed just always relevant and always on and always good. I am playing this in the blind run of the Innsmouth Conspiracy with Eric. And I don't want to go into too many spoilers because I know people like to watch those Eric runs blind. Like I said, I brought this to my Ursula deck, and it has blown me away, man. This card, I think it's very powerful. I think it's incredibly powerful. I think it feels fitting for a 5 XP card. Like, I think it should cost 5 XP, but it has such an impact on your game when you play it. It feels very much that when you play it, assuming you play it within like the first 5 turns, the value you get from this card is just insane. Like, you might even think like the one that I like the most is exactly 1 or 3 to discover clue at my location. But I love the upkeep. The 2 or 4 is the one that I like getting the most. Just like a card and a resource while investigating is insanely good. Now, of course, you could just play this card without any sort of control, but I think that the Precision archetype, you really feel as if like you're cheating when you put it all together. I think Antitherra is good on its own, but I really want to play either Steady-Handed, Artistic Inspiration, or both on top of it. What I really like doing is also playing Relic Hunter, so I can play Chemistry Set as well. And then just combining them all together into this like crazy stew that gives me wings and lets me fly up to heaven. And that's how the Precision archetype in Antitherra makes me feel. There's just so much juicy, god dang value to harvest out of this game when you're playing that archetype. And Antitherra is like the perfect gold seal on an archetype that I think is already incredibly fun and incredibly powerful. Great card. If you want to see it in action, keep your eyes on the channel for the end of the month when the Innsmouth Conspiracy run starts. It's been very fun with Eric, and I think you guys are going to enjoy it too. With that said, I am done with this list video, and you are probably done watching. But before you go, I would love to hear in the comments what cards from Drowned City are impressing you. I would really love to engage with you guys some on that, so I can also get some more ideas from the community and get some perspective on what's working and what isn't. Additionally, liking, commenting, subscribing. Oh, I already said commenting, so liking and subscribing would be very helpful. Or if you want to go above and beyond, you can join the Patreon. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching, everybody. Have a good one. And as always, a GG's.